Only took 3 attempts, but I think I got that one down. Fuck yeah. We're on a new record here. It's not going to take 18 hours to film this episode.
Guess again, turkey!
Hooray! The musou genre is, well, let's just say it's a bit of a swamp to wade through. With more titles being bad than good, the Dynasty Warriors series is well known for branching out into other properties. From Gundam to Fist of the North Star, One Piece, Berserk, and even their own massive collaboration, whatever flavor of one-man army brutally murdering thousands of hapless victims is your favorite, chances are it already exists. In 2014, Team Ninja got together to form an alliance with Nintendo to bring their lovely Murder Fest style of gameplay to the Legend of Zelda franchise. Your dirty boy, being a nasty butt slut for Ganondorf, was more than excited to get down on that shit, and I'm pretty comfortable saying that it ended up being the best of the genre, and yes, I am in fact pretty well aware of how low of a hurdle that accomplishment actually is, but considering what it compares up against sometimes, it's still an accomplishment for the game to be undeniably fucking good overall. Focusing on being more of a celebration of 3D Zelda titles, it ended up being a very interesting and highly faithful adaptation of the Zelda staples to the musou style. With plenty of characters and shit to do that, despite the hundreds of hours I put into it, have still not 100% of the game, and that was before all the DLC characters, modes, extra maps, weapons, and content from the ports that got added even to the Wii U title. There's a fuckload, and it even manages to have a good deal of variety, even considering the grind-heavy nature of the genre. Their next collaboration with Godzilla would be the Fire Emblem series, and to be frank, ended up being a bit of a letdown, but fondle my balls and call me Sister Susan Hot Lips if they didn't turn around sometime later and announce they would be doing a wonderful little follow-up to the Hyrule series. This time around, they would be focusing solely on the story of Breath of the Wild, but that which took place before Link got his tight little booty hole plundered by robots and pulled a Rip Van Winkle. Did it live up to its predecessor? Is it any damn good? Is the original better?
Why am I asking you?
Let's find out with Breath of the Wild, Age of Calamity. Musous are overall simple. Regular attack, mix in strong attack for cooler combos, each character has a special strong attack and character traits that will play a part in how they are utilized, and what you have to learn to squeeze the best out of them. You also get to build meter to use the trademarked musou attack, which freezes everything, plays a sick little animation, and then proceeds to thoroughly fuck the day of anyone even in your periphery. The Hyrule series of the bunch adds little utilities you usually find in the games, which are used to help navigate or exploit the weaknesses of enemies and bosses. In the previous title, this took the form of bombs, arrows, hookshot, boomerang, and a couple of health and power-up utilities. In Age of Calamity, this takes the form of the Sheikah Slate utilities. In the previous title, all characters used each utility the same, but this time around, each character's nonsensical use of the iPad is somewhat different. Some characters throw a single bomb setting up for a combo, while others will throw, say, a much larger bomb that spawns other bombs for greater spread, or in Link's case, hurl multiple bombs that you target where they go. Somewhat lather, rinse, and repeat for Magnesis, Stasis, and Cryonis. While most characters can find uses for bombs, the other abilities will mostly only ever be utilized in very specific situations, most often revolving around when the enemy opens up a massive telegraphed weak spot that requires a specific tool to be used, which might just be the same thing as boss monsters had in the previous game, save for the fact that non-boss monsters have this. The previous game didn't sit there and tell you exactly what you needed to use and when like you're mentally retarded, and didn't slow down time when you open up the menu and pick which tool to use. Yeah, it's not a great adaptation. Character damage types and type counters no longer exist. All characters do the same type of damage, including Urbosa, who literally adds lightning to her attacks. It allows her to perform extended and more powerful combos, but it doesn't deal extra damage to enemies who are weak to lightning. Because again, typed character damage no longer exists or really matters, but typed damage does kind of still exist. Throughout the game you will encounter wizrobes of the fire, electric, or ice variety. They charge a new utility weapon, the wands. You can use these to stun enemies for a short period to work on breaking their weak points, or you can match bosses' weakness and put them into somewhat of a crush state. This ensures that as long as you can put the hurt on them quick enough, a single combo, or even at lower levels, a combo and a half will get you a free weak point smash for massive damage. Once you know your weaknesses, your dodge timing, and how to use combos to briefly break up weak point gauges for extra damage, you start clearing out boss monsters like they're nothing. And you will learn these things by about the halfway point of the story mode, because you're fighting these boss monsters a lot. Unlike the previous title, the story and the side grind are tied together. You will grind even when you're not trying to, and this results in picking a battle where you have to fight some moblins and a Lionel, followed by the only available battle having you fight a moblin and a Lionel, followed by a story mission that features you fighting moblin, a Lionel, and if you're lucky, adding in a Hinox. And then it unlocks a side battle where you have to do it because you need the money to level your weapons, which involves you fighting some moblin, a Lionel, and whatever the last big monster the story mission just threw at you. Yeah. Problem. Musou games are repetitive. There's really no getting around it. They are insanely repetitive and grindy. The key is to contextualize it and present it in manners that sort of relieve that repetition. The first title never put you in a situation where you were stuck replaying the exact same mission, but with only a slightly different color multiple times. This game makes no bones about doing so, with the mission titles generally being all that delineate one mission from another. It doesn't help that by the time you're just about tired of doing the same mission over and over, they mix it up by adding meaningless elements to the monsters that in no way change how they are fought, save for that maybe a weak point elemental weakness may not work. This applies to every big monster, by the way. Moblin, Hinox, Lionel, and Guardians. It's fake variety. It really is. The story is sadly a what-if scenario. I was really hoping we would get to play what was essentially a prequel where we knew how it was all going to end, but we get to actually see how it went down. What we get instead is a time-traveling R2 unit who completely changes the course of history with characters from the future joining as well. It sucks. Impa's voice actress doesn't belong. In a game with much more subdued performances and attitudes, she's a very loud anime cliche. Ravioli is also just a piece of shit. He's not compelling. He's a self-centered asshole with no redeeming traits. They had the chance to show us why we could like him, and they ended up choosing not to. Everyone else is just everyone else except for Zelda. From what we saw in Breath of the Wild, Zelda resented Link pretty heavily at times, and it took time for her to warm up to and accept his part. Yet none of that is here. Link's following her everywhere, and she's just automatically down with it. It's stupid anime bullshit, and not the good kind the previous title had, which gave us just Legend of Zelda, but with massive honkin' tits. Mama! Toasty! Yeah, we don't even get tits in this game. We don't get the wide variety of weapons, style, and contextualizations of characters we got in the last game. Riju literally beating people with a walrus was pretty fucking funny, but everything else is so toned down that the Gerudo characters are really the only ones who stand out, which is fine. Sexy desert bitches deserve love, but we get nothing like the previous game's sheer absurd visual spectacle, and we certainly get nothing as world-fucking as Ganondorf. See that guy over there? No, him. That guy right there. Fuck him! I think it might have something to do with the game's performance. It chugs really nastily at times with far less enemies on screen than would cause the Wii U title to struggle. Frame rates dipping below 30 in single player was a pretty common occurrence, as was watching my allies getting stuck on geometry that didn't even appear to be a barrier, that I actually managed to get stuck on as well, which is a nice segue into talking about allies. This time around, instead of being stuck with whoever you choose at character select, you create a party that you can give orders to. This allows you to send other heroes to objective points while you tackle another, and can quick swap rather than having to run across the entire map. That's neat! It's a great improvement, but it comes at an absolutely grievous cost. In Hyrule Warriors, as with most Musous, you capture keeps and outposts. These would turn them to your side and spawn new soldiers who would intercept enemies and stop them from recapturing your posts. If you worked your allies' morale up, they could even overthrow their enemies. In missions that were larger and ran longer, this could allow you to take care of a few strings of events while the foot soldiers would weaken enemy keeps, causing the boss to spawn. They couldn't kill the keep boss, but by the time you came around, the keep boss had spawned and you went down in 4 hits, the entire keep was essentially captured while you were away. You could use these factors to your advantage while deciding the best way to tackle objectives to get the best scores, thus unlocking shit. This doesn't exist in Age of Calamity. Keeps serve no purpose other than being an objective. Capturing keeps does not cause soldiers to spawn, and when soldiers do spawn in them, they don't move on to capture the next one or intercept enemies, because only a handful of enemies will ever be on the move. It's a rare occurrence for a Bokoblin to actively attack your stronghold and only comes up as part of a specific mission objective. If monsters weren't specifically placed in the same vicinity as a soldier, they will never seek them out. When you order an ally to a keep or to intercept mini-bosses, once they arrive at the commanded location, they will proceed to do absolutely nothing. Not a goddamn thing. It doesn't matter what the level the character is, how powerful of a weapon you gave them, or how long you leave them to it, they will never make progress on capturing a keep, and they will never have an effect on an enemy's health bar. Giving orders is the most minor of conveniences to the player at the cost of a game's functionality, which means keeps serve no purpose. They're a checklist window dressing because they couldn't adapt the musou genre to Breath of the Wild. Speaking of enemies spawning and performance, enemy pop-in is fucking bad. I don't mean outposts and keep spawning in new enemies right in front of you. I mean the game will just pop enemies in right in front of you as if they were stored in RAM and the game needed you to be within spitting distance to see them, which is just wonderfully juxtaposed with how far away the game will let enemies stay on screen. It's really not good. It also doesn't help that the grind is base game story content as opposed to the side content, and it's made even worse by the absolute mess of a map that just keeps adding more and more and more. I completed the story and more grind than I liked to get there, and it just made an even bigger mess of the map for it. The original's maps were, to be fair, a little obtuse to get through, sure, but obtuse and maybe requiring a strategy guide will always be preferable to janky, difficult to navigate messes. There's an option to pull up services, but there is no option to filter out specific nodes, meaning if you want to do anything, I have to fight with its janky auto-snapping to things I don't want. How do you fill up a map this much and not have a fucking filter option? OG had the bazaar for upgrading characters, this just has a billion fucking icons. Get your shit together, this was $60 goddamn dollars. Also, Ganon looks like a shitty Asura's Wrath boss. What a fucking joke. Breath of the Wild Age of Calamity is not a good follow-up. Its characters are less iconic, some even being outright garbage like Taba. Its story is an awful fanfic-style what-if. Its presentation is just unmanageable clutter. It's got less in the way of spectacle, it overcrowds you with heavies who spam shit. Its outposts do fucking nothing, and it's just downright naked mind-numbing repetition. Repetition and grinding are pretty key factors for the genre, but it is how they are presented that matters. Age of Calamity just dumps everything in front of you and demands that you sift through it. I can't recommend it, even after waiting for a discount. The original is still a phenomenal title, will always be cheaper, and just all around better. Can't go wrong with Legend of Zelda and big ol' titties. Too easy. I'm the Necroswanson, and you can go fuck yourselves. I literally just realized before hitting the render button to finish off the video for the game that I repeatedly called the game Breath of the Wild, Age of Calamity. That's not the game's title. It's Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity. God fucking damn it.